Good evening. Welcome to the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry's Business Review magazine. This television program is an initiative of the GCCI to bring to the fore national topical events that affect the private sector in general and the members of the Chamber in particular. My name is Lance Hines, Senior Vice President, and your moderator for tonight's program. Our discussion this evening will center around the availability of finance for the private sector, with specific focus on the microenterprise, small and medium business enterprise, commonly known as SMEs. I think by now no one disputes the critical role these sectors play in our economy. In addition, entities start off as micro business, then become SMEs, then hopefully become large enterprises. This cycle of growth, in most instances, requires some sort of financing and related support. So that is the genesis of our discussion this evening. We have three panelists who have graciously agreed to participate in the discussion. We have Mr. Ramesh Prasad, Chief Executive of the Institute of Enterprise Development, popularly known as IPED. We have Mr. Derek Cummings, CEO of the Small Business Bureau. We have Mr. Jusan Edmondson, Marketing Specialist, SME Lending, Republic Bank Guyana Limited. Gentlemen, thank you for taking the time to spend with us this evening to discuss these issues and to provide some insight into this critical area of private sector growth and development. I think in the interest of the viewers, it might be useful for each of you just to give us an idea of the types of services and facilities that you offer to the private sector, and also in your case, Derek, some of the things that you know of and track that will provide support to micro enterprises and also the SMEs. So Ramesh, we can start with you.
All right, thank you very much, Lance, and thank you for having us on your program. Well, IPED, as you know, is very well known across the country now, and we've been in service 27 or more years, so almost everybody in Guyana knows about IPED. But just to summarize the services that we provide, our focus is on enterprise development, meaning that we want to grow enterprises. And in supporting those enterprises, we provide financing to micro, small, and medium enterprises. In addition to providing those finance, we also provide business counseling as complementary to the financing. We also have entrepreneurship development training. So if enterprises are having challenges in running their businesses, we can also help to improve their capacity. Time and again, we also coordinate with regional organizations like the CDB, the Caribbean Microfinance Alliance, and so forth, to provide targeted and specialized training in certain industry and sectors. So that's, in a summary, what we have on offer.
All right. Jusan, I'll come to you to give us an idea. You seem to have an SME division or department. So it looks like that's a specific target. So maybe you could give us an idea of the kind of support you're giving currently.
All right. Let me first start by saying thank you, Lance, and to the GCCI for having Republic Bank at this forum. In terms of having a SME unit per se, what I can say within each branch, there is provision to service the SMEs, and in addition to larger commercial clients. So within each branch, there is a framework to service the SMEs within each community that we're located. Across 11 branches now that we have, we've recently opened LETEM last month. So, and services as a bank, services range from SME loans. The clients can come in, they can have loans in addition to our consumer loans, because SME clients can also borrow for consumer purposes, as well as we have our range of deposit services. We have, for instance, just to let you get a feel of what it is, we have night deposit services, which we would like clients to take advantage of, given crime situation within the country and so. So a lot of people don't take advantage of these services, and they're quite cheap, affordable, especially for SMEs. Right. In addition to that, we have payroll services, for instance. Rather than having all the money pay to your clients and so forth, you can actually have the bank pay your customers, your employees for you, at a very affordable rate, which is $75 if it's automated, $120 per employee if it's a manual payment you want us to do. So that's just to give you an idea of some of the services that we have to offer at Republic Bank.
All right. Well, last but not least, Derek, you've been in the news quite a lot. in terms of the initiatives that are now being launched under the Small Business Bureau in terms of support for micro business and SMEs. So if you could give us an idea of the kinds of things that you're currently engaging in and the kind of objective that you have under the project.
Well, first of all, the Small Business Bureau located within the Ministry of Tourism, Ministry and Commerce is very appreciative of the opportunity that you have afforded at the GCCI to be here. The Small Business Bureau operates under or within the Act, the Small Business Act of 2004. The Bureau is one of three institutions identified within the Act. The Council, the Small Business Council, which is a governing body to oversee what happens within the Bureau. The Bureau functions as a secretariat of the Council, and the Small Business Development Fund, which I think is what this program is really seeking to highlight. Before the microfinance project came on stream, which we know was launched on the 14th, officially launched on the 14th of last month, was signed on to by the government through Honorable Ashley Singh on March 25th of this year. We were doing supportive services to the small business sector, mainly in terms of exhibitions, exposing them, providing some institutional strengthening capacity, training, and so. But the fund is really going to give a quantum leap to what we are designated to do under the Act. The fund is really, the projects is really part of the GRIF funding under the Low Carbon Development Strategy of 10 million, and 10 million has been allocated, and the first 5 million is a 2-year project to grow micro, small, and medium enterprises, and it's really a partnership arrangement. It's overseen by the Office of the President Project Management Division, the Ministry of Finance, the IDB, and of course the Small Business Bureau itself.
All right, good. I want to talk a bit about the process, and each of you would have your own specific requirements and the sectors that you offer. Ramesh, I'll come back to you. In terms of the facilities that you have, I think you have them staggered based on the amounts that you'd want to borrow, whether small window, large window, and stuff. Tell us a bit about that, and what's available in terms of and who you're targeting for those types of loans.
Okay, now we have several different types of loan products on offer. I'll deal specifically with the services, with the loans, because your program is about access to finance. So we'll discuss those. Now, we've recently launched for the micro clients, which are extremely small businesses, a facility that we will lend up to 100,000 Guyana dollars, all right? Which is $500, sorry, okay? Now, that facility targets micro enterprises, the one-man operation, very small, the single vendor that'll probably be selling peanuts on the road or cigarettes or sweets and all of those other things, all right? That facility is very straightforward. All you have to do is to prove to us that you have a business, and you make your application. Once we are happy that you have a business, pay a very small application fee of $2,500. The loan facility lasts for 20 weeks, requires weekly payments, and within 1 week we can get that approved. It takes 5 days because we have to visit your premises and we have to prove that your business exists. We would like to say that we are willing to fund any legal business that the client can pursue. So that's one aspect. That is referred to as the micro boost facility. Then we also have small loans facilities. Now, the small loans facilities are accessed mainly by the rice farmers, the poultry farmers, the other crops, and quite a few shops around the country. Currently, we're supporting about 1,400 shops across the country. More than likely, if you look around your neighborhood and you see a shop, highly likely it's funded by IPED. Now, that facility, you can borrow as much as 5 million Guyana dollars under that facility. Now, that requires a little bit more work on behalf of the client. In addition to proving to us that they have a business, they usually borrow for two purposes. One, to increase their stock levels, which is working capital, or to make an investment in their equipment and so forth. Now, if they're doing working capital investment, they have to tell us, they have to create a list of what they want to buy and how these items that they're buying will enhance their business. One of the challenges we're facing is that people want to borrow, but sometimes when they come in, they have absolutely no idea what they're going to spend the money on, and sometimes they're a little bit scared of disclosing what they will spend the money on. As a service provider, we have to prove that we're lending you for a business and that the business can sustain itself, and to be able to, not sustain to pay back the loan, only to sustain so that you can make profits. So again, we want to prove that your business is viable. For the equipment, you have to be able to prove to us that the equipment is going to be of some value to the business. Either it saves you costs or it contributes to increasing your capacity, and that capacity can be absorbed by the market. Now, I don't want to go through all the finer details of the full requirements because we can take a whole day here doing that. But that's just the brief idea. Once you have the business, you have the idea, we can build on that. We also have a next facility that we can lend that we refer to as our medium-sized facility. There are no truly such medium-sized businesses in Guyana, but for our internal purposes, we call them medium-sized. In that facility, you can borrow between $5 million to $20 million. Now, a lot of people are not aware that IPED, you can borrow as much as $20 million, all right? That facility is for businesses that have some level of collateral, and the collateral doesn't necessarily have to be real estate. It can be mixed collateral, meaning that it can be real estate or it can be motor vehicle, equipment, factory, plant and equipment, and so forth, all right? Now, that facility, again, requires some more work, and other than proving that your business exists, other than proving what you need, all right, you have to be able to tell us that if it's an equipment you're buying, that you have done some work in terms of deciding the best place to buy it from. So it requires you to do some quotation analysis and submit quotations to us. And the additional piece of work there is that you need to prove to us that the market exists for this level of expansion.
So a business plan.
Well, we don't ask for a business plan, but in the application process, we basically ask you a question that will result to some extent in a business plan. Because in our internal process, we have to prove that your business is going to be able to generate the cash flows to repay the facility and to also contribute to your business surviving, because that's a very key element. We don't want to be lending you money and you end up bankrupt.
Okay.
All right, so that's why the process is very tedious for that. So let me just recap there. The microboost facility you can get at within 5 days to 7 days. The small loans facility within 2 weeks of approval, you can be informed of your approval. And the medium facility takes 3 weeks to 5 weeks because it's larger amounts and require a lot more work.
Okay. Juicing, in terms of the products that you offer, I don't know whether they are that structured or really you evaluate based on what you ask for. In terms of what you want to lend or the kind of support that you want to give. Is there a ceiling in terms of how much you would lend, or do you have specific classifications in terms of what an SME is supposed to be, and things like that? How does that work at Republic Bank?
Now, within Republic Bank, we actually have 3 subgroups of our commercial loans. We have the SME, the commercial loans, which we is another tier, and corporate. Now, the SME runs from as low as $25,000 to $25 million. The commercial loans are those loans in between $25 million to $70 million. Corporate is everything above that.
Okay.
So while there is a definition, well, not a stable definition, but there is a definition for SME within the bank, we classify it as loans going for a maximum of $25 million.
Okay.
So we don't have a ceiling per se for loans. So basically, if you go above that 25 million, all that means is that you graduate to the next level.
Okay.
Right. So that's basically our structure is within for the SME clients.
All right. Derek, I want to talk a bit about the program that you're offering. When I looked at some of the things that you said, certainly in the public arena, when you were launching, you also provide guarantees. I think, if I understand correctly, it's a percentage of the loan being applied for up to 12 million or something like that. If you could tell us a bit about how that works.
All right. Permit me to start by saying how the $5 million is structured.
Okay. This is the 5 million loan.
The 5 million money that is, it's not a loan, it's part of the money that was earned under the low carbon development strategy.
Sorry, that's right.
But the IDB has been given responsibility to administer it.
Okay.
So, about 1,575,000 US is allocated for collateral guarantees. This means that the SBB will be placing up to 40% of whatever the client is going to have. So, of not more than 30 million, there's a cap of 30 million Guyana on it. So let me talk US. Yeah, 1,575,000 US
for collateral.
For collateral guarantees.
Okay.
Yes, and this each client is entitled to 40% of whatever he or she wants to borrow. Remember, we don't have the institutional capacity to administer loans, so we partner with financial institutions. So far, GBTI has officially signed on, and it's very likely that Republic Bank is just waiting on one little document to sign, an iPad. It's really coincidental that you're together, but this was not planned. But iPad also is going to be so there are three financial institutions that they have reached all of Guyana, so anybody can access this. So they go to the bank and they ask for the loan, and based on the project, and I'm going to tell you the projects that's just the areas that you could find finance, and the SBB will make available 40% of that, with a cap of 350,000 US max
per application,
per project, right?
Okay,
per project. The project is 2 years, but I gather from one institution that they are willing to even ask for repayment to even go beyond 4 years. The project is a first phase of 2 years, a second phase of 2 years, but they're willing to go beyond that to repay. So if you go for the 150,000 US or 30 million max, you can get some time depending on how the institution looks at it, that particular institution. So that's the first thing. So it has a multiplier effect. This 1,575,000 US has a multiplier effect of, if you go for the straight 2 year period, of 3.9 million. So right away we see the possibilities of this project, and assume that people will take shorter than that. It even multiplies itself more than that. I think there's a billions of the project, but we're not stopping there. The interest rate, I can't speak for IPED on this. They have a special interest arrangement, and they didn't have to get the Minister of Finance approval on this because of the way IPED is structured.
Right.
But for the commercial banks, the Minister of Finance has agreed to a waiver of the corporate tax and also the amount of money that they have to set aside with the Bank of Guyana to give a guarantee on the loan, as long as the commercial banks lend at not more than 6%. So the loans will be given at 6%. But even within that arrangement, the project has a facility based on what sector you're borrowing for to participate in, to give an interest subsidy of between 3 and 5%. So you're going to end up even borrowing money from as low as 1%. And the amount of money set aside for $5 million for that, $5 million US for that, is 675,000 US. That's interest subsidy.
That's interest subsidy?
Yes, interest subsidy.
Okay.
Now, apart from that, 1,403,500 US has been set aside for training. training in both business capacity, management, administration, and the technical area that you seek to want to do your business in, to improve yourself and improve your capacity. So there's a huge amount of money there going for training over 2 years. The figures that associated with this is at least 1,000 persons to be trained.
That's your target?
Yes.
Okay.
And also
1,000 business owners?
Yes.
Okay.
And also for the financing, it's tied to creating or sustaining 2,200 jobs over 2 years. So these are figures that are really built in, and that's a rigid M&E monitoring structure. There's also a small portion set aside for a grant scheme of 500,000 US, of a maximum of 1,500 US per person, or 300,000. The grant scheme is really for, if when the financial institutions look at your project, and they say, this doesn't make sense, or we don't think we want to go with it, but you have something you want to retool or you want to start as a new venture. Once you can do a proper business plan and show us within the bureau, that's administered by the bureau, we will consider for that grant. We'll consider the person for that grant.
What are the limits on that grant?
As I said, 150,000 US or 300,000 Guyana.
300 million.
1,500 US, I'm sorry. 1,500 US.
Okay. And
yes, 300,000. Yes, it's very small. It's something that we don't think we want to encourage too much. But, I mean, if the needs arises, we will look at that. That will be administered by a panel of drawn from the Ministry of Finance, Office of the President, that's project oversight, somebody from a financial institution, and I think and the Small Business Council. And they will be looking at that. And the last bit of money for the 5 million is 776,500 for administrative support within the bureau.
For the project itself.
So yeah, I say that to give an idea as to how the $5 million is allocated. The areas that we are going to emphasize, it is low carbon, And low carbon, people say, what's low carbon? They call anything low carbon. But I think the country manager of the IDB gave a good statement at the launch when she said the green economy is one which results in increased human well-being and social equity while significantly reducing environmental risks and ecological scarcities. So we say anything that falls in these areas. And so we have some priority sectors: farming, processing, aquaculture, ecotourism, business process outsourcing by ethanol. And then we have the low carbon activities like energy, efficient transportation, agricultural, internet and computer services, entertainment, arts and crafts, publishing and printing. And we seek to encourage vulnerable groups to take advantage of this facility. Those who are affected by destruction of the sectors such as mining, forestry, sugar, and bauxite, and anybody who is termed vulnerable. So I think I will pause there, and if you want to ask any question, I'll give my other colleagues to.
Well, Ramesh, how do you see the same thing applies to you to some extent? Clearly, there's an attraction to this from IPED's perspective, and I would imagine from Republic Bank as well. What are your thoughts in terms of how this, because everything is a mutual benefit and a mutual thing and stuff like that. I mean, what are your initial thoughts in terms of how you see this working from IPED's perspective?
Well, I think the entire facility and its support received under the guarantee and even the grants is really going to be useful in supporting businesses. What I like about the guarantee facility is that it supports small businesses in particular. Because of the size of money you're talking about, it rarely can be used by a micro enterprise. All right? So it's very useful for small businesses. The challenge that we have with small businesses is that lots of the small businesses have grown beyond their microfinance capacity. Meaning microfinance, we do it pretty much without collateral. But they are still below the banking threshold in certain institutions. So they're what we call the missing middle, all right? Whereby they can't access enough financing from the commercial bank, nor can they access financing sufficiently enough because that will surpass the ceiling for microfinance. Now, we find that this particular facility will serve that group of businesses very well because they might have some amount of collateral, but they might not have all of it. So the 40% support is a great support. It means, therefore, if they want to borrow $30 million and they only have collateral to cover $18 million, the additional support can come, all right, the 40% they can get, all right? The grants, on the other hand, from the financial perspective, we don't like grants because it somehow encourages people to be dependent. However, these grants are very useful in the grants can also be useful, I must say, in the sense that it gives people the opportunity to try things that they would have never tried. So, not that you want to encourage failure, but you want to say that if they don't try, few businesses are going to fail in the process, yes. They're going to have strategies and all of that. However, there can be good successes coming out of this. Now, these are the higher risk entities that the comments is talking about that might not be able to attract even microfinance. All right? So the grants come in very handy at that aspect. People who are wanting to do startups, people who are thinking about entering into some entrepreneurship activity but might not have had all the skills. It gives them a good opportunity to try something. Well, in our experience, I'm also part of the Guyana Youth Business Trust, okay, whereby we fund for the young people. Our experience there is that for every 10 persons we lend money to, 6 of them fail. 4 are successful. And successful for 3 to 5 years, and then they go on to other things there. The reason why we continue to provide that service, even though it's a challenging service to provide, is because if you don't lend the 10, you wouldn't find the 4. You understand? Even though 6 fail, at least you have an opportunity to find 4 that will succeed. And I think that is where the grants are going to be useful in this context.